On a crisp September morning in 2024, I stepped onto my private dock at Lake Serenity, a secluded gem nestled in the rolling hills of Vermont, expecting nothing more than the gentle lap of water and the scent of pine. Instead, I found a shirtless man sprawled in a folding chair, fishing rod in one hand, a sizzling bratwurst on a camp stove duct taped to my railing in the other. He looked like he'd claimed the place as his personal kingdom. When I demanded he leave my property, he flashed a toothy grin and said, "Lydia told me this dock's mine now. A gift." I stood there, dumbfounded, as if he'd just handed me a seashell and called it a deed. His cooler, labeled Captain Rusty, sat proudly beside him, and his chair was nailed into my oak planks. The air reeked of grilled sausage, not lake breeze. I didn't know whether to yell, laugh, or shove the whole dock into the water with him on it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't some random squatter. This was Lydia, the queen of neighborhood chaos, and she just fired the opening shot in a war I didn't sign up for. It all began innocently enough. I'd taken a weekend retreat to the Green Mountains, a no-Wi-Fi escape to kayak and recharge with friends. I came back that Monday, sunburned and bleary-eyed, craving a shower in my inbox. Instead, I found this guy Rusty, as he introduced himself lounging on my dock like a retired pirate. His fishing line floated baitless in the water. His flip-flops rested on a humming cooler plugged into a mystery outlet, and he stared at me like I was the trespasser. "You lost?" I asked, trying to stay calm. He squinted, pointed to Lydia's sprawling property next door, and said, "I'm Rusty, Lydia's cousin. She says this dock's open to everyone now. Community vibes, you know?" I let out a single, sharp laugh. Community? This was my dock, built with my money, my permits, my sweat. But Rusty wasn't just visiting. He'd set up camp. Wind chimes jangled from my pergola, a battery-powered fan whirred beside him, and a garish Matt declared, "Home is where the hook drops." He flipped his bratwurst and asked if I had ketchup. I was too stunned to answer. Fuming, I marched to Lydia's mansion, her lawn a fortress of manicured shrubs she'd bullied the HOA into planting to block my view. She was hosting a wine-soaked brunch for her HOA cronies, all perched like statues in wicker chairs. Lydia, in her oversized sun hat, smirked as if she'd just won a chess game. "What's your cousin doing on my dock?" I demanded. She laughed, a high-pitched trill. "Oh, Nathan, didn't you read the new HOA rules? That dock crosses your property line, so it's communal now." She waved a laminated sheet with a tacky crest and her signature scrawled in bold cursive, "Lakefront Access Decree." It looked like a craft project gone wrong. I told her my dock was private, backed by county permits, and that this was trespassing. She sipped her rose and said, "That's your opinion, Nathan. Rusty's a guest. Be a better neighbor." I didn't argue. Lydia fed on drama like a shark on chum. But I wasn't about to roll over. Back home, I dug through my files, pulling every document, permits, blueprints, payment receipts, even a county-stamped letter approving the dock's construction. It was ironclad. That night, I watched from my bedroom window as Rusty lit a lantern, sprawled on my dock, and belted out off-key Springsteen. My anger shifted to something sharper, resolve. I wasn't just a homeowner. I ran a marine logistics business, moving yachts and floating platforms across states. My dock, it wasn't just fixed, it was modular, built with detachable anchors and brackets for easy transport. Lydia had no idea what she'd stepped into. By dawn, I had a plan. I called my old crew guys who'd hauled everything from speedboats to floating gazebos. They didn't blink when I explained. One, a grizzled vet named Mike, just chuckled and said, "Lydia, the one from the HOA Horror Stories Online? We're in." I didn't even have to pay them. The next day, I crashed an HOA meeting. Lydia was absent, but her lackey, George, a spineless yes-man, couldn't stop my 5-minute speech. I handed him a folder labeled "Illegal Dock Seizure," stuffed with maps, photos, and notarized statements. George was sweating by my second sentence. Afterward, 2 board members, Ellen and Tom, pulled me aside. Ellen whispered that Lydia never filed a zoning change. Tom said she ran a secret group chat for her schemes. I thanked them, but said I had it covered. My crew was already at a nearby cove, barge ready, cables prepped. We struck at dusk. Rusty, oblivious, had added a hammock and a tackle box to his setup. The lake was calm, the sky clear. My crew moved like ghosts, loosening anchor bolts I designed for quick release. By 9 p.m., the dock was unmoored, tethered to our barge. Rusty didn't notice as we began the slow pull. He was too busy yelling into his phone about bait brands. At 10 feet out, nothing. At 20, he stood, wobbled, and shouted, "What the hell's going on?" His chair tipped, his speakers splashed into the lake, and he scrambled for his cooler. I watched from my deck, coffee in hand, as Lydia sprinted to her lawn in a bathrobe, screaming into her phone. My crew waved casually from the barge, like they were just fishing. The dock glided 150 feet down the shore, still within my legal lake zone, and we locked it to new moorings I'd installed that morning. The sheriff's boat arrived by noon. Lydia had called, claiming I'd kidnapped Rusty. I'd already emailed the sheriff every document. 2 deputies, bemused, found Rusty munching a sausage, unharmed, on a floating dock. He admitted he wasn't trapped, but called me a jerk for moving him. I met the deputies on shore, binder in hand. They reviewed my permits, smirked at Lydia's fake HOA decree, and told her it was a civil matter. Lydia, now hysterical, demanded they arrest me. One deputy laughed. She stormed off, vowing revenge. That night, I sat on my relocated dock, the water glowing under a harvest moon. But I knew Lydia wasn't done. The next day, she was back, snapping photos of the dock with a clipboard and a walkie-talkie, plotting her next move. A lake safety inspector showed up, clearly sent by her, but left after verifying my permits. Then Rusty appeared, sheepish, to retrieve his cooler. He apologized, saying Lydia had misled him. I handed it over, but as he left, Lydia berated him for talking to me. Later, she blasted a megaphone, claiming the HOA had voted to remove my dock by dawn. It was a lie. Half the board had already turned on her. I cranked jazz on my speakers and toasted her from my deck. A cease and desist letter arrived the next morning on HOA letterhead, citing fake violations. My lawyer, Claire, laughed and told me to save it for a potential lawsuit. That evening, Ellen and Tom visited, admitting Lydia had forged votes and minutes. I gave them every piece of evidence: the letter, the fake permit, video of the dock tow, and Lydia's meltdown. They left grinning. At the next HOA meeting, Lydia's empire crumbled. Ellen presented the forged documents. Tom exposed her lies. Rusty, shockingly, confessed he'd been duped. The board voted 9-1 to oust Lydia. She fled, speechless, as the room buzzed with relief. But Lydia wasn't finished. A week later, she filed a small claims suit through Rusty, alleging distress and humiliation. Claire called it a circus and built an airtight defense. Videos of Rusty relaxing mid-tow, his sheriff chat, and my permits. In court, Lydia's theatrics flopped. When Claire played footage of Rusty singing and offering beers mid-lake, the room roared. The judge ruled for me, warning against frivolous suits. Lydia stormed out. The neighborhood celebrated Ellen, and Tom brought a cake labeled Dock Lives On. Even Rusty apologized again, admitting Lydia's coercion. Lydia's house sold at a loss. She moved to a new town, already fighting another HOA. My dock became a legend, the Liberty Plank. I upgraded it with solar lights, a fire pit, and a plaque reading, Nathan's. Moved once, never again. Neighbors gathered there, fishing, laughing, healing. A framed photo of Rusty adrift, labeled Drift Happens, hung in my sheeta, reminder of what happens when you stand firm. But here's where it gets messy. Was I too harsh towing Rusty, a clueless pawn, into the lake? Should I have negotiated with Lydia first? Or was her power grab too far gone? Could the HOA have stopped her sooner? Or was this chaos inevitable? And what about you? Would you have towed the dock, or played nice to keep the peace? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more wild tales. Let's hear your take. Whose side are you on?